it's super interesting to me that Christians in general are so super judgmental of others. When Jesus himself came and broke all thought patterns about judging others. And I'm 1000% including myself in this discussion because I have found myself very, very guilty of judging other people. When someone does something that we know is sinful or specifically mentioned in the Bible as a no-go zone, then we are very quick to judge them, and it becomes a topic of discussion with others. Today, I'll tackle a tricky topic, gossip in the church. And there's no way to sugarcoat this one. So, let's jump right in.
Leading as a woman is tough, but leading as a woman of faith is next level. However, it doesn't have to be that way. God has called you into this leadership role because He says you are worthy. You are His child, and if He qualifies you, who in this world can unqualify you? You might suffer from imposter syndrome and believe you're not good enough, but God says you are good enough. Hi, I'm Rika Whelan, Christian leader and workplace culture coach, and together we're going to navigate leadership with faith as our foundation. Let's get started. Grab your coffee or water, keep that notebook and pen handy, and let's jumpstart your leadership.
The one thing that I love about going to church is the fellowship. Talking freely with other Christians while enjoying a cup of coffee or a tea whilst the kids are playing. It's just nice. It's just a good way to end your week, start your new week at church. And then, if you're lucky, you get to attend a weekly small group meeting where about 5 to 10 people usually come together and either unpack the sermon of the week or learn about a new topic and then unpack that. Now, the reason why I'm saying if you're lucky is because I've not been able to attend a small group for ages because of the kids. It's just not possible. And it's in this fellowship that gossip can become an issue. Okay? What's the one factor that is common when it comes to gossip? It's people. People are the gossipers. And Satan will try and find a way to interject himself into godly conversations. And the one way he can do that is through gossip. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 4 yet, episode 4 is where I unpack all that the Bible says about gossip and what God says in the Bible about gossip. I go very much in depth in that episode on that. I will repeat some of that information here, specifically the verses in the Bible, but definitely go and listen to that episode because I think it's going to be very valuable for you. Now, one way that gossip masks itself is through concern. Let's use Sue as an example. Sue, of course, being a fictional character. Now, Sue might know someone who is going through a tough time and then shares her concern with others during fellowship, causing people to talk about that other person. You know, she might say something like, I think we need to pray for so-and-so because they're going through this and this. And so, yes, she does that out of concern. She does that because maybe she really wants prayer for that person, but is that really the right thing to do? Or Sue might know a piece of confidential information that someone might have shared with her and then share that with others by asking them to pray. So it can be either way. Either she's concerned about someone, they've not said anything, but she's concerned about someone and then she goes to others in the church and says, oh, I think we need to pray for so-and-so because I've got this concern. Or on the other end, someone has shared confidential information with her and because she's got a desire to gossip, okay? I've talked about desires and, why people gossip, okay? Go back to the gossip series, which is episode 3, 4, 5, and 6. Or it might be episode 2 to 5. Oh, sorry, guys, I can't remember it now. But, you can go back to that series. I discussed it in depth, and there's some other episodes on this podcast as well about gossip specifically. But because Sue has got a desire to gossip for whatever reasons she might gossip, Okay, well, there might be some reasons what triggers her to gossip. Okay, now she's sharing that with others and she's basically pulling others into that. And yes, she might have a true concern for this person. I'm not discrediting her concern for this person. But what I am saying is that we need to be so careful that if we've got a concern with someone, that we go to the right person. So that person might have a small group leader that you can go to the small group leader and say, I've noticed over the past 4 weeks that so-and-so has done this in the morning. I've got a real concern. I know that they're in your small group. Would you mind looking into that? Or, so you're following kind of the right process of talking to the next person instead of just talking to other people about it that has basically got nothing to do with that person. And I know that this can be tricky because, believe me, I've been in the church my whole life. I've literally grew up in the church. I've been in the church. I know that it is the norm to share concerns about people with each other. But the more I have been working with this issue and this topic of gossip, because I've become quite passionate about, and I feel this passion comes from the Lord, where He's urging me to work with women of faith and that might be, you might be a leader in there's so many various places you could be a leader at, not necessarily only in a workplace. It could be in a social group, it could be in a church, it could be in a small group. But I'm feeling the urge of the Lord to talk about this topic. That's why I'm bringing this up as a tricky topic to talk about, gossip in the church. Gossip is not only in workplaces. It can be in friendship groups, it can be in sport groups, and it can be in the church. And so we must be so mindful that when we're sharing a concern about someone, that we're not inadvertently gossiping. And I truly believe that some people don't mean it as gossip, 100%. But on the other hand, I also think people do mean it as gossip. So I think it can be both. And there's another way that gossip can actually mask itself, and that is through judgment of others and or empathy towards others. So I'll explain why I put judgment and empathy kind of in the same sentence, okay? So I've always found it super interesting that Christians in general, so I am generalizing here, but I'm a Christian myself. I've been a Christian my whole life. So I'm talking from my own perspective, and I'm talking from that of what I've seen from other people in the church, in friendship groups, of people who are Christians, of family, and it's just, for me, this is an experience that I have experienced from different places in the world as well. I'll just say that. It's not just here in Australia. I've seen it in South Africa as well. And so it's super interesting to me that Christians in general are so super judgmental of others, when Jesus himself came and broke all thought patterns about judging others. And I'm 1000% including myself in this discussion, because I have found myself very, very guilty of judging other people. When someone does something that we know is sinful or specifically mentioned in the Bible as a no-go zone, then we are very quick to judge them, and it becomes a topic of discussion with others. Oh, have you heard that Sue's teenage daughter is pregnant? Isn't it just such a shame? Oh, Sue must be so embarrassed. Or have you heard the sad news that Sue and Joe are getting a divorce? Oh, it's such a shame, isn't it? I feel so sorry for Sue, because rumor has it that Joe has cheated on her. So we're talking about others, seemingly feeling sorry for them. It's that empathy. That's why I'm saying that. But in actual fact, we're just judging them and we're gossiping. And this might be very confronting for you to listen to. I mean, when I was writing this out, because I always make notes for myself before the time, I was like, wow, this is a very bold thing that I'm doing right now. I'm calling out people who gossip in the church. And I mean, I feel today, when I was just sitting here and I was I'm trying out a new workflow for my day. And I was sitting and I was just praying, God, I've got these ideas for an episode today. Which one would you like me to tackle today? And this one wasn't even on my list. But this one's the one that came up. And so I felt complete peace in my soul that today is the day, because this topic has actually come up before. And I have felt challenged by this topic before because, why? Because I'm guilty myself. I'm not judging you for judging others. I'm just saying we are all judging everybody. And why? I'm not quite sure why it comes so easy for us as Christians to judge other people. I mean, Jesus came, and I've just finished watching the 4th episode of season 4 of The Chosen. And, Jesus came to disrupt what we believe. He didn't come for peace. He didn't come for peace. He came to disrupt our thought processes and our thought patterns about the things that we do in our life. And if this is a thought process and pattern that I need to tackle today with you, and if you feel like turning this podcast off because you feel convicted in some way, shape, or form, then I pray that you'll stick around, because this message is not only just for you, but it's also for others. And if you don't know what to do about it, I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to read you some verses from the Bible that I want you to go and work through yourself. Go and hear from the Lord. Lord, I'm like this. I judge other people. And I don't want to do it anymore. Please disrupt my thought processes, because I don't want to do this anymore. And so, yes, this is a very tricky topic, and like a lot of the topics that I've already dealt with on my podcast, some of these are tricky and tough topics to talk about. And I was just actually saying to a friend this morning, not a lot of people want to talk about gossip. It is so interesting to me that gossip is just this silent killer that's in the world. It's like Satan has found a way to be this silent, I don't know another word, killer that just goes around and destroys relationships. He destroys friendships, and he destroys things that are beautiful. And through what? Gossip. And that is why no one wants to talk about it, because they feel convicted and they feel guilty in their souls and in their hearts. And believe me, I'm not innocent of this. I'm no angel. So I am talking to myself here as well. And even just last week's episode where I talked about community support, and I prayed a prayer. And when I listened to that again afterwards, I was literally talking to myself in that moment. I was giving that message to you as the listener, but it was actually also for me. So I am just a messenger. I'm just a messenger. I am not an angel. I'm by no means innocent. I am guilty myself. But I am a messenger, and this is a message that I have to pass on. And so one thing that we know about church communities is that sometimes church communities can be small communities. Yes, they can. You've got your bigger churches, especially in America, 20,000, 50,000 people in those churches. And so the importance of having a small group or a connect group, whatever you call it, wherever you are, where 5 to 10 people meet, we have got to value those as moments that we get to unpack the word, as moments where we get to fellowship with other Christians, and we should avoid using them as moments where we can judge other people or talk about other people. And so, what can you as a leader in the church do about that? Is it even your duty? Is it even something that you should be doing? I mean, you could be a women's ministry leader. You could be a children's church ministry leader. You could be a small group leader. You could be a deacon in the church, depending on the denomination. You could be the pastor yourself. You could be the pastor's wife. Okay? Is it your duty to do something about the gossip? Or should it just be the main leader, the pastor? Okay? should it just be their duty of care? Take a moment to answer that. My belief is no. I don't believe it should just be them. I believe that God gave all of us the ability to speak up and to say no to gossip and to not stand for it anymore. Please go and listen to episode 4, where I discuss in full what the Bible says about gossip, and it will just open up your eyes about how God feels about gossip. Now, I will read a couple of verses here because it's so crucial that we understand our role as leaders when it comes to gossip. Proverbs 18:21 reads, "The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences." Now, the Bible, both the Old and the New Testament, warns strongly against gossip and the effect that your words and your tongue can have. God, however, doesn't leave us in the lurch and say, go figure it out yourself. You're not allowed to do it, but just go figure it out yourself. No, he gives us the tools, the antidote, if you will, for dealing with gossip and dealing with the gossipers. Ephesians 4 verse 32 says, "Instead, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God through Christ has forgiven you." This verse requests that we be kind to each other and tender-hearted, which according to the Webster Dictionary means compassionate. Forgive each other just like God has forgiven you. And so, as a leader, your role in this is to speak kindness, okay? And if you see or hear someone gossiping, to correct that and to say, and I know this is going to be tough. I know people don't like conflict. But as a leader, I want to challenge you. It's your role as a leader to deal with conflict. It is what it is, okay? As a leader, you have to deal with conflict. It's part of leadership. And if that is a skill that you need to learn, then we need to develop that skill. But you need to be able to deal with conflict and with tough conversations, okay? Proverbs 17 verse 9 says, "He who covers over an offense promotes love, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends." So basically, stop the gossip with you. Don't spread it any further. You can make the choice to not gossip anymore, especially if it's an issue for you. So if someone comes out of concern, or comes out of judgment, or comes out of empathy, identify it, okay? And say that, "Thank you very much for sharing that information with me. Now, I would really appreciate it if you could not share that information with anybody else. Let's not spread this person's confidential information. I appreciate so much that you've brought it to me, but now let's not spread this any further. We do not want it to become a gossip story, and we want to protect that person's privacy. So stop the gossip with you and tell that person, thank you very much, but do not go and tell anybody else now." So it's your role as a leader to do that. Proverbs 20 verse 19 says, "A gossip betrays a confidence, so avoid a man who talks too much." And as a leader, it is crucial that you do not betray the trust of someone. If they have come to you and they have shared confidential information, boy, oh boy, is it important that you do not share that information with another person. All too often we hear of stories of people who have been hurt by the church. People that they have trusted in the church who have betrayed them, who have shared their personal stories with other people. I mean, I'm 100% sure that you would have heard a story like that. And if you've not, then go and look it up, because so many people have actually left their faith in God, or they might still believe in God, but they leave the church altogether because someone in the church has hurt them or has betrayed their confidence. So make sure that as a leader, if somebody tells you something in confidence, you do not spread it. It stays with you, okay? And then 1 Timothy 18, verse 15 to 18 reads, "If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take 1 or 2 others with you and go back again so that everything you may say be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, in a church environment, okay, now we need to be careful here because we have just said that we kind of don't want to involve too many people here, okay? So what will that look like in a church environment? Right, let's say, for example, you're in a small group and there is one person in your small group who is a gossiper. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They like to talk about other people. They're extremely concerned, and they might be concerned and inadvertently gossiping, but they're always talking about other people. What I would do is, if I were you, I would take them out for a coffee. I would sit them down and I would say, hey, Sue, let's use Sue again. Sue's under the firing line here today. I have noticed during our small group discussions that there's always a discussion about someone else in the church. And, I recently heard a message about, how we can potentially perpetuate gossip by talking about other people. Now, I know that it's not your intention to gossip about other people, but I do want to try and avoid creating an environment in our small group where we talk about other people, okay? Unless it's relevant to the group in terms of our sermon, then I would really actually appreciate it if we could avoid talking about other people, because we want to try and keep the environment positive, and therefore, kind of talking about other people, or, even when we're concerned for them or show empathy or potentially judging them. I just really want us to try and avoid that, because I don't want to inadvertently encourage gossip. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And so 99% of people, remember this, 99% of people will be reasonable, and they'll say, yeah, sure, I wasn't even realizing I did that. Then you can say, yeah, sure, yes, I actually agree with you. I don't think you were doing it on purpose. The 1% of people might actually say, no, I wasn't doing that. I've never done that before. Okay, then you can say, look, I'm not going to argue with you about this. My intention is not to argue with you, but my intention is that I just want to keep our small group discussions about the sermon or about whatever the lesson is that we're unpacking. I'm in your corner. I'm not fighting with you. We've got a really good small group, and we value your input so much. And so therefore, let's just, and then you can carry on with the discussion and maybe even change the topic. So leave it at that, all right? So then when you've got your small group discussions again, and this happens again, okay, then what I would do is that night when it happens again, you call the person aside, like if it's in the kitchen or quickly to depending on where you are meeting. Of course, if you're kind of used to it being in someone's home, then you can just quickly say, hey, Sue, do you remember that discussion we had like a week ago about not talking about other people? I just noticed that we talked about, let's use, what's her name? No, I can't think of any other name. Jeffrey. Let's do Jeffrey. I just noticed that we were talking about Jeffrey's circumstances again. Do you mind if we don't talk about other people's circumstances, because I just don't want to create a situation where everybody in the whole group's talking about Jeffrey, because it can kind of come over as gossip, and we want to avoid that. So, and then... okay, this person, depending on how this person acts, fingers crossed, they're going to be like 99% of people and say, yeah, okay, I realize what you mean now. I'm really sorry. I'll try harder. If they still deny it, then I would leave it. And then what I would do is where this verse says, if you're unsuccessful, take 1 or 2 other people. So highly likely you'll have a second small group leader, which would be your partner or a friend. Okay, so then in that instance, I would take that partner or the co-group leader or the assistant group leader or whomever that might be, and I would organize another coffee chat. And I would just say, we'd just like to talk again about this issue. We value you so much as part of our group, but, we definitely, to remain part of our group, now you're getting a bit more firm. You're going to say, we really want you to stay part of the group, but we need to stop talking about people in the group because it's like really encouraging gossip. And yeah, so you're going to talk to them about that a bit more seriously. And then, just remember the reaction that they display is on them. You cannot control their reaction. What you can control is your emotions and the way you handle the situation by not getting frustrated if this person denies it again. But what you can't control is that person's reaction and how they react to the situation. Okay, you cannot control that. So if they decide to explode, leave the group, go to the church elders and say bad things about you, it just basically confirms exactly what you've just done and what you've just said. This person is perpetuating and encouraging gossip, and therefore they need to, similar to in a work environment, they either need to go or they need to change their behavior, and you can pray with them for that. That situation might have 10 different outcomes. Okay. But if you have a situation like that and you want to come and debrief it with me, brief it with me before the time, just remember I'm available for coaching. So you can come and chat with me as a coach. Remember, workplace culture and this issue surrounding talking to people and what to say, that's a speciality of mine. I've done it for a very, very long time. So, I'm willing to help you prepare for that meeting. I'm willing to help you prepare a script, because remember, we always prepare something before the time. We don't just go in headstrong and just say, whatever comes up in our mind. That doesn't work. Okay, you need to prepare something before. So you can contact me at support@rikawhelan.com. We can organize a coaching call. I'll also pop the link in the description below if you know that this is for you and you want to jump on a coaching call with me. Okay. So the main things that I would like for you to take away from today's episode, okay, is number 1, take gossip seriously. It can have long-term effects on you and the church and the small group. And who? The people in the church. We do not want people in your church to leave and say, I've been hurt by the church. Okay? They might have been hurt by someone in the church. But that's not what people say. People say, I've been hurt by the church. Okay? We need to be mindful of that. Okay? And if we can do something about the negative behavior that people are displaying in our church, like gossip, then we need to do something about it. Okay, number 2, speak up against gossip. Address it directly with the person or people involved. Okay, so if there's a group of people who is a problem, then you need to go and speak to the leader of that group. Okay, if you are leading let's say the children's ministry, and your leaders of the children's ministry, so the leaders who are leading like your toddler's church and your primary school or your main or your, your middle school church or whatever that might look like. Let's say they are the gossipers. Well, what you then need to do is you need to call in the leader of the pack, because there's always a leader of the pack. Okay, you're going to talk to them and you're going to say, look, value you so much. You're a very valuable team member. You're amazing with the kids. The kids love you so much. But what we've noticed is the following. You are such a good leader. You're an influence with other people. People follow you because you've got good leadership skills. But, I've noticed that, conversations can get quite negative and judgmental towards other people. And so we just need to remember that leadership is influence. And we've got a big responsibility. We want the people in the church to feel safe, and they cannot feel safe if they're judged or if they're spoken about in a negative manner. So, that is one thing, that you need to be, your finger needs to be on the pulse here, okay? If you are struggling with gossiping yourself, okay, let's say that you are the person who struggles here, okay? Pray that the Lord will guide you and help you to stop. Okay, so that you can show integrity at the church and not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk. Just remember that God can grant you. He can 100% help you with this. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. And I believe that God will help you in this space, especially when it comes to self-discipline, when it comes to gossip. So I'd like to end this episode with a prayer as you tackle an issue that is tough. I know it's tough. And this might have been a very confronting episode. But I pray that if you've made it to the end of this episode, then I know that this was and is for you. Okay, because the people who it wasn't for or who felt too convicted, they already turned this episode off after 10 seconds or after a minute because they realized, no, I don't want to listen to this today. Why? Because they might feel guilty. And that's okay. I'm not judging them, but they might come back to it. I'm hoping that they might come back to it. And if you're the person who went away and you came back again later, I'm super glad that you made it to the end of this episode. And I'm praying for and with you now. Okay. Dear God, I pray for each and every woman of faith in a leadership position listening to this podcast episode. God, you have called them into leadership. You have said that you are my instrument. You are the one that I have chosen. Just like you have chosen the disciples who were seemingly very unworthy, who were judged, who were gossiped about, who were truly not people who, according to other people, Jesus should have hung out with. But Jesus, you came and you disrupted our thought patterns. You came and said, well, I don't care how sinful they are. I don't care if Matthew was a tax collector. I don't care if they, seemingly had no value in society. They mean something to me, and therefore they are important. And I pray, God, for each and every woman that's listening to this podcast episode, that they will know that every single person in their church has value because you gave them that value. You don't care what they did in their life. You don't care about their sin, God. You don't care about what they've done wrong. You don't care about anything that us as human beings care about. Because we care about what other people have done wrong. You don't care about that because you sent Jesus to die on the cross for us, to forgive all our sins and to forever change your relationship with us. You've removed the judgment, and therefore we have no reason to gossip or to spread rumors. And I pray, God, that for the woman that knows that they have to do something about gossip in their church, I pray that you will meet them, God. Meet them in a place where you can give them courage. Meet them in a place where you can say to them that, my child, it's going to be okay. This is tough, but I'm going to be with you. And I pray, God, that you will equip each and every one of these women as they listen to this episode. Give them, number one, the courage. Give them, number two, the sword of salvation, which is your Bible, God. Give them the helmet of truth. Let them put this armor of God on before they go into battle, because in some essence, this is a battle, God, that they have to fight. And sometimes we are afraid of this battle. We are afraid of confrontation. We are afraid of how the other person's going to react. But God, show them that the person's reaction is not on them. It's not a reflection of them. It's not a mirror image, but it is rather a mirror image of that person. The reason why that person is reacting like that is because that person is looking in the mirror to themselves. And they are reacting in a bad way because they see their true selves being open like a fruit. That's what I see, like a fruit that's being opened and all the insides are being exposed. That's what I'm seeing, God, is that people react in a bad way because the deepest, darkest parts of their heart is being exposed. And that's why they react the way they do. And I pray, God, that each and every one who is going to have the courage to speak up and speak out about gossip, whether it's at the church or whether it's in their workplaces, I pray that you will give them courage. Equip them with the knowledge of what to say. Equip them with the skill, with your word. And I pray, God, that you'll be with them every single day as they tackle a difficult issue in the name of Jesus Christ. They're tackling an issue that you have spoken about so clearly in your word. And you despise gossip because it's Satan's way of interjecting himself into society. And I pray, God, that you will just help each and every one of these women feel that they can do this. They are worthy of doing this, and that you have called them into this leadership position for a reason. I pray this all in your Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Well, I hope you feel extremely encouraged by that episode. God's amazing. He's truly amazing. And I hope that you will come and join the Facebook group and come and share your testimony of how you have tackled this issue in your church. Or if you are going to take, because this episode is also very relevant to the workplace, I hope that you will come and join the Facebook group, come and join us in there, come and share with us what you are doing and your struggles, because it's a very small and tiny, intimate community, and we are there to support each other. And I hope to see you in there. Okay, well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week, and I will chat to you again soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. If this podcast blessed you in some way, the number one way you can thank me is by leaving a review. Your feedback means the world to me and lights me up every single time when I read it, and it makes me want to keep going. So please leave a review, and your review will also help other Christian women in leadership find the answers they are looking for. So whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the review section and leave that review. Then head over to womenoffaithinleadership.com and join our free Facebook community, and I look forward to engaging with you there.